They can all see our head bobbing, so we
can.
might as well say live from Bristol, Tennessee. Braver than the rest. Just another broadcast that's trying to be censored by big tech.
Exactly. That's why you got to go to Rumble. Everybody go to Rumble.
Yeah, Rumble is
go to Rumble.
Rumble is where it's at. Rumble has 2 turntables and a microphone. Where it's at. 2 turntables and a microphone.
Why do I not know that?
Well,
I mean, I'm old enough, aren't I?
yeah, you are old enough, but you are from here. So,
yeah, okay. I get that.
yeah. Tonight, big show. We've got a lot on our plate tonight. We didn't post everything because we're just gonna go.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to it. But
Oh, yeah.
obviously, we want to kick off with what everybody else is talking about because it's popular, and that is the boxing match that's going to happen, the geriatric boxing match that is going to happen tomorrow night. Joe Biden has been at Camp David for the entire week, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
I bet you that he gets up in the morning and has a raw egg, and in the background is you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's him moseying out of bed, and then whatever doctor he's got is just
Pumping him full of stuff.
pumping him full of stuff.
Yeah.
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 I picture him walking around with that, like in the hospital with the IV bags,
Yeah.
just kind of hanging down.
I picture him and Jill on the beach running. Well, she's running. He's got a walker,
Right.
Just going for it.
Golly, he's taking enough trips to the beach. I mean,
He has.
yeah.
Yeah.
That guy vacations. Golly, they criticize,
Well, they criticize Obama. Obama, first of all, set the record for not being in the White House. I think.
right. Yeah.
So I think,
Joe Biden's blown that out of the water.
yeah, but I don't know if you can count being, previewing retirement homes as,
He's
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
you can. I guarantee you one thing. He's forgotten every vacation that he's been on this year.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah. In fact, you pulled this up. This is a dumpster fire.
oh, and this is a compilation. So this is what I envision him after. This is going to be him after the debate. The question is, during the debate, is he going to hit this level of senility, of low energy?
I think he
Or
will.
will they-
I think he's going to at the end, and I think that's why. And we were talking about it before. Trump has the last word. Now,
Correct.
you never give your opponent the last word. That's just
No, because
in
you
a
can
debate. That's just
Oh, it's ridiculous. Well, they won the coin toss, so they won tails. They went tails. Tails never fails, I guess, and they won it. And by winning the coin toss, they got to choose either the left or the right side of the stage. Which meant if they picked the side of the stage, which I don't even know what that means, the significance of that. Maybe I'm not smart enough.
well. The right is usually conservative Republican, right?
Well, yeah, if there's some subliminal message behind that, but I don't know if the engagement is that. And I've got another video I'll show you with the microphones in a minute too. How they did a demonstration, CNN did, about how this debate is going to go with the lights on and what it's going to sound like if somebody tries to interrupt. So either way, they chose to pick the right side of the stage, and that gave Trump the last word in the debate. And I think, like you were saying, is because he could sound like this.
Anyway,
It's so sad.
and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. I was just thanking, anyway. But I just, look, I mean, Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. It was in January, after being elected.
Bro, it's sad.
Late January,
Like
early
maybe it's the
February.
music that's pulling at my heartstrings.
Yeah, I'm sure the music has something to do.
But-
like
This
Jaws.
this man is the leader of the free
Said,
world.
it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it.
Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you
I mean, that is heartbreaking.
We got 5 minutes of this.
There's 5 minutes of it. like it will just go and go and go. This is 3.5 years of this poor man being drug around by his family, by this, the elites in Washington D.C. just so that they can maintain power and have him as the front man.
Yeah.
It is sad, man. It is sad, and I think the music plays into it a little bit.
At least his hands in this early stages look normal. I've watched lately his hands look like,
Oh, they're frozen.
yeah, like robot hands.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know what to do with his hands.
Yeah.
And
When you can tell that they put him in a tight suit to try to make him look younger and leaner and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But you're right. The video that I think we covered, did we play it? We played it last week, didn't we? I might have played it in one of my
I don't know. I can't remember.
one of my videos, but it was him at
week.
at the Juneteenth ceremony
Yes.
where there's all this motion.
The
going on.
parachuter
Everybody's-
guys that came down, that one?
No, this was the one where he was in the crowd. Everybody's dancing.
Oh, and he had no idea what.
He's just standing there in his hands. It's always the same.
Just-
frozen.
yeah, just-
down by it. I don't know, man. I don't know if he can make it through. I think the debate is only an hour, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's 2, but
Which is funny because it probably is just an hour because he's old and they know he can't get through that.
Yeah.
I mean, they are pumping him so full of chemicals, and I heard that Trump agreed to take a drug test.
he did. Yes. So Trump said that he would take a drug test, and I think he.
Genius, and they're going to find Diet Coke. Like it's going to be pure. It's going to come out caffeinated.
And they're moderating. So the way that they're moderating this debate is, I want to say fascinating, but it's CNN trying to force decorum. And I mean, let's be honest, man. How much decorum does CNN typically have towards Donald Trump or anybody else? But this is their what do you want to call it? Demonstration, I guess, of what the debate stage is going to look like. And this is let's listen to this guy giving his 2 cents on this one.
Podiums, you can see 2 green lights. When they're on, they signal to the candidate his microphone is on. When the green lights are off, they signal to the candidate his microphone is off. Now I want to give you a sense of what it will look like for viewers at home if a candidate whose microphone is off interrupts a candidate whose microphone is on. So I'm standing at one podium, and I'll ask Phil to come in and take the other podium. And so let's say I'm answering a question. My light is green, and I'm speaking. Phil's microphone is off, and his green lights are not illuminated. He's going to interrupt me as I'm speaking, and this is what it will sound like. My volume remains constant, while Phil's interruption can be difficult to understand.
Let's try the opposite. My microphone is now on. Victor's microphone is off, and he's going to interrupt me. My volume remains constant, while Victor's interruption can be difficult to understand. Now, CNN's production team has shared this demonstration with the campaigns earlier today, and we're sharing it with you, our viewers, so everyone fully understands how tomorrow night will work. Now, we should note, by agreeing to participate in this debate, both campaigns and candidates have also agreed to abide by these rules. The CNN presidential debate airs live.
So they're doing everything that they can to make this somehow favor Joe Biden, but it's not going to favor him. It's just not going to. It's not going to be as much of a hindrance. So they can be seated. They aren't going to be standing. They're going to have it muted so that if Donald Trump is constantly interrupting. Now, here's the thing: we don't hear the interruptions, but Joe Biden will. So if Donald Trump can get him off of his game by interrupting,
And that's going to happen.
it's going to happen.
I mean, that's going to happen.
It's absolutely going to happen.
Because that's his MO. I mean,
Yeah.
he is the master at getting people off their game.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him. There are times, and I've said this before, I wish that he had no thumbs.
Right.
Right? I wish that he had no thumbs because his problem is he says what he thinks
Right.
and he has no filter.
It's his problem. It gets him in trouble.
But it also is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he says what he thinks, and you don't have to read between the lines. He's going to tell you what he thinks.
Right.
And so as uncouth as it is and as appalling as it can be, and okay, at least you know where you stand. And I think some of that is, I spent some time in New York. In fact, it's funny. We just went to a 25th anniversary party for some dear friends of ours, our old neighbors, fantastic people. And they're from New York. They were both in the police force.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, in a sense, their family came in, friends, people, and it was a gaggle of New Yorkers here in Northeast Tennessee.
That was interesting.
And so we're sitting down to eat, and it is like going back in time.
Yeah.
And within 15 minutes, I'm talking with my hands. What are you kidding me? You gotta, and you're just
back, yeah.
I mean, it just came right back,
Right.
Because it's a different culture.
Yeah.
And people from the Northeast, people especially from New York, Long Island, they're going to tell you what they think.
Yeah.
And I remember even moving here, I moved here to be a worship pastor, and there are people on my team that were like, you were so mean when you got here. And I'm like, I wasn't mean.
You just sound like it.
Right. And my wife even would tell you, like,
Yeah.
we were married, and she would have to tell me, like, filter, like,
Right.
you're being a little too. So there's that aspect of it where he is a New Yorker, and he's going to tell you what he thinks. He doesn't read between lines. He just this is it,
Yeah.
And that's refreshing, especially in a political culture where everything is laced with a backhanded.
And it's curated. Like their whole life.
Their whole life.
Everything that's visible to the public is curated.
Absolutely.
And they're not like that. There's some that are. I feel like Matt Gaetz is pretty original.
He's a breath of fresh air.
He is. He says what he thinks.
Yes,
and
he does.
He doesn't filter. He's not curated. He's not bought and paid for, which is a great thing. So anyway, and I think that's part of it. The bought and paid for side of it, the self-funded people, or the ones that, like Matt Gaetz, he goes out, all of his donations are small donations, medium-sized donations. He's not getting the monster checks because he doesn't want to taint himself. Donald Trump,
Right.
He has started to take some big donations, but it hasn't really led him to taint himself in that way. Like the typical, Nikki Haley, as an example. Nikki Haley went from, broke. Vivek Ramaswamy made a point about this. She went from being broke and in debt to a multimillionaire, all because of the same people that were paying for her campaign to become president, because she's going to fuel the military industrial complex. She worked for Boeing, was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. She is a scripted, curated person, and Donald Trump just isn't. And I love it. We need so many more of the Trumps and Gates and folks like that are just originality is
that are unafraid to just go after it. So
Yeah.
I think tomorrow night's going to be it's going to be one of two things: incredibly boring or very interesting. And I'm leaning on the interesting thing because I think you're going to see the mental acuity at play in a big way. And I know that he is. I don't know. I shouldn't say this because anything that we don't know for sure gets us booted off of every platform ever, right?
right.
But, I'll bet $1
Yeah.
that Biden is getting the questions ahead of his people know.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's gonna memorize the answers. He's a master at that. So as best he can, he'll muddle through it. So anyway, I hope they ask questions that are. I hope they don't go back to January. Like, stay away from insurrection. Stay away from COVID. Stay away from that stupid stuff that most of the over half the American population goes, this is crap.
Yeah.
They won't. They're going to ask the question about the insurrection. They're going to ask the question about targeting your political opponents. If you're elected, or you're going to target your I guarantee. Meanwhile, the answer is, oh, you mean like they do. Yeah. I mean, it's just such a game.
Trump said after the last debate that he wished that he had not interrupted as much. So there's two ways this could go. One is he could say, you know what, I could really take this guy off his game. His mental acuity is not there. And like we were saying before, he could be interrupting. I tend to think that's what he's going to do. But there's the possibility that he's going to try to play the statesman. And not that he's a statesman. He's a rabble rouser, which is a good
totally.
thing. But he could play the statesman and show himself to not be the brute that a lot of people are accusing
What if he
him of being.
did say a word?
Oh, and not interrupt at all?
Not at all.
I don't think he can do that.
I don't think he can.
No,
You're right. Yeah.
You know how when you get my great aunt, she used to. We were in a grocery store one time, and she said there's this kid bagging our groceries, and no offense to anybody that's got a bunch of piercings and stuff on their faces, but she was an older lady. She was in her 70s, and this kid was bagging groceries, and she said, why'd you put all that stuff in your face? Do you know how silly you look? And I said, are you kidding me, Ida? And she said, honey, when you're my age, you can say whatever you want.
And there's you know what?
I think there's some truth to that.
She's right.
Once you get to a certain point.
And these two guys can both say whatever they want because they're both at that age, right?
Yeah. Well, and Donald Trump's like, what? Come on. They've come after me with lawsuits. They've been.
That's right.
It's been
That's
lawfare for years.
Yeah.
Since he walked down the escalator, they have been just hammering that guy.
Yep.
And he's like the Energizer Bunny, man. He just keeps going.
He just keeps going. Diet Coke, that's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I look for it to be not a knockdown, drag out fight, but my hope and prayer is that let's focus on the issues that matter.
Yeah. What are you going to do about the economy?
What are you going to do about the economy? What are you going to do about immigration?
Yeah, immigration.
Right? And Biden, I'm sorry, too little, too late. It's almost like, oh, the election's coming up, so I'm going to go ahead and do this now.
Right.
And no, I think everybody sees through that. Everybody's like, okay, wait a minute. Why now?
Well, you talk about immigration. I'm going to pull up a couple of these.
So heartbreaking.
This is like, I pulled this up for my a video that I recorded today. Oh, I missed my other one. Where's my other clip? There's a third one. And this is all just in like the past like week or so. But either way, we'll show everybody this. Here's two examples. There was a third one. And this is just, it's on the news, on a loop. The dad of a 13-year-old rape girl by illegal immigrants, a Houston girl. She was killed by illegal immigrants, and they said, of course, she fought back. There was a woman, a mother of 5 kids, who was, I believe, raped and murdered, but was murdered at least by illegal immigrants.
Oh, yeah, and you know what?
Day in and day out.
Mayorkas won't even say her name. Wouldn't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
Did you see that whole mess?
No.
Like he didn't even acknowledge her. It's just sick. It's like a mother.
Yeah. Well, that's a. Yeah.
So
people don't feel safe, and it's affecting left and right, and so I think in polling people are showing that it's starting to concern them.
Yep.
And Joe Biden he's 100% responsible. He's responsible for CBP. He's responsible for border security.
Yep.
That is part of the job of the president, and he has dropped the ball. Mayorkas has dropped the ball.
Yep.
So people care about that, and he's got a lot to answer for. Now, how is CNN going to phrase the question?
That's the big question. How do they phrase this question?
Yeah.
Because they're gonna try to phrase these questions to make him look less responsible.
Yeah.
Right. Let's start with the economy. I mean, just start there, right? If you start with the economy, where one is looking at the numbers and the facts, and the other one is in a fairyland. We're not in a recession. There's no recession happening. There's no problem with that. It's like, what? I guess when you have the kind of money these people have, they don't feel this.
No, they don't.
They have no idea what the middle class, which the middle class is going to be serfdom soon. It basically is going to be work for the government or.
Oh yeah,
that's it, right?
Yeah.
I was listening to Beck today. He brought that point out. He said, it is just Glenn Beck, not Beck the singer.
Oh yeah, Beck. Oh, what was the Beck? Okay, I won't get off on that tangent. I was going to say
where it's at. 2 turntables and no, that's not it.
That's
so. Anyway, you end up with being either 2-tiered justice, 2-tiered financial system, 2-tiered. This is the goal. This is it. I mean. And there's a chasm that's happening between being well off in this country and being in poverty. And it's growing. It's not, the Democratic Party has been the party for so long that tries to, we're going to bridge the gap. We're going to make the middle class more viable. We're going to, no, you're not.
No,
you're not doing that. You're not. And so that's a problem. And I don't know how they're going to answer that tomorrow. I don't know how, because they will bring it up. It's gas is almost 3 times what it was.
Mm-hmm. Trump was 180 or $1.82 a gallon, or 86 or whatever.
$4 and in California it's $7 a gallon. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
At some point,
Well, it's to us, we sit and look at this stuff. We're constantly consuming the content, and so it is obvious to us.
Yes.
Other people, I can't get past the common sense barrier. That okay, I got it. You are, and I think this is probably why they make it almost a religious thing when it comes to the environment, when it comes to transgenderism, when it comes to all those hot button issues. That becomes a god to them.
Yes.
And they approach it and they support it with a religious fervor. But when you are, supporting something, if you like, common sense still has to apply in with those. What do you want to call them? I mean, I guess they're like, it's like their faith almost, you know what I mean? And so they can't see past those things, those very specific things, to see that, hey, there's one party right now that they ain't perfect, because the Republican Party, the uniparty, has along the same lines contributed to this downfall, to this economic collapse, an economic situation that we're in. But hey, maybe if we get a few more of these Republicans in, like our actual conservatives in, which are out there, things can shift the other direction, because it's done every time. It's like clockwork. Obama is in office, everything gets worse. Trump comes into office, everything gets better. Joe Biden gets into office, everything gets worse and worse.
But I think I think that it's important, because this is something that we, especially the conservative side of things, what you die on the hill that you believe in,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, gas is really bad, but the price of groceries is really bad. But as a trans person,
Right.
critical race theory is my thing,
Yeah.
right? Immigration is my thing.
Yeah.
And so,
And I don't want to be somebody that opposes those things.
right, because it's, truthfully, it's in the name of being loving and kind and, justice for all. And it's like, okay, I get where you're coming from. People vote their values.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know as pastors, we're not supposed to ever get into politics, but I don't care what we're not supposed to do. And I preached a sermon on don't vote your values.
Mm-hmm.
We got to stop with that. If you're a believer in Christ, don't vote your values.
Mm-hmm.
Vote his values.
Mm-hmm.
Vote what matters to him,
Mm-hmm.
not what matters to you. Okay, immigration is my thing, I get it. Immigration is your thing. What does Christ say about it? What does God say about it? Well, God says, come unto me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Okay, I get it. But you're going to tell me that you're going to vote immigration over the murder of the unborn.
Mm-hmm.
Because one is sinful. One is a disgrace and affront to God. The other one is open for some discussion, right?
Right.
But you're going to tell me that you're going to literally allow children to be sacrificed to Baal
Mm-hmm.
on the altar of the enemy of God. I'm sorry, I can't side with that. And I'm not a pastor now. I'm not in the pulpit now, but I will tell you, if you're a believer in Christ and you vote for a party that's pro-abortion, you better take a real hard look at your relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
A real hard look.
Yeah.
So, and we weren't even, that's not even on the docket tonight.
Right.
But, you can't, how can you do that?
Yeah.
How can you do that? And I get it. I get that your hill is something else, right? But when your hill supersedes his hill, well, then
It's problematic.
he's not your God. You're your God,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
And
so-
that's what things like the transgender movement, that is what that is. That is it's
absolutely.
narcissism.
It's absolute
it's-
narcissism.
It's a mental health crisis that is.
We are off of Facebook, by the way. We are off of
we're
YouTube.
done.
We're done.
absolutely- At least we're still on Rumble, right?
How is Jordan Peterson still having? I mean, he came out and talked about the transsexual thing, and he talked about stuff, and I was just like, my goodness, he was nailing it on the head.
Yeah.
But it was,
Oh, yeah. Well, strikes. That's just what it is.
yeah.
But even with like the immigration thing, when you say that there could be an argument that's made, we also still have a border, and we still have a duty to protect the people inside of this country. And if bringing people in is not the problem.
No.
Allowing people to come in without knowing who they are opens up us
Problem.
right. That's a problem, because it opens up the citizenry to attack, to the things that we just showed.
Yeah. Mothers being murdered.
Right.
Kids
Mothers,
being
kids
murdered.
being murdered.
Like,
Youngsters being raped. I mean, this is just, it's atrocious levels of violence
yep.
that we still have a duty to protect. And that's why it can't just be, oh, hey, you're a Christian, so you just think, I mean, how can you turn people away who are in need? Well, some of them are in need. Some of them are coming here to deal drugs.
Right.
Some of them are coming here
and
to
how,
expand
and
a criminal enterprise.
The big question is, how do you differentiate that? How do you
By having a closed border and a funnel that people have to come through
exactly
to vet them.
Exactly. That's it. And so it's almost like, okay, we're going to instead of saying we're going to limit immigration, why don't we say, hey, we're going to differentiate bad from good here.
Yeah.
If you're in crisis, get up here. I have no trouble with that. If your world is falling apart, get up here. Okay? If you're coming here to do bad things, stay away. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
For the mother who's got 3 kids and just lost her husband and having trouble with drug lords and everything else, get up here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I still say that you like,
but you got to go through the funnel.
Right.
You got to know that that's the situation. You've got to you don't just.
Well, because we can't heal, for as powerful as we are and as much suffering is in the world, we live a very insulated life. All the people, a lot of the leftists out there live a very insulated life. So they don't see, like we've seen other parts of the world. They haven't seen anything outside of their little soda straw. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we understand that there's suffering everywhere. There will always be suffering. We are, if you think about the spread of Christianity as an example in America, Christianity has led to the spread of 90%, as I think was the last number I read. It's some people say 70%. It's that our ability to reach out with resources and people and all of that, we have facilitated missionary work and all that around the globe. That is helping people where they are. America itself, our system itself, cannot support everybody who is in crisis coming here.
No.
And we can't end. Well, it's just like us trying to export our values.
Our Christianity can't support everybody that's coming here. There's not enough.
We can't support the people that are already here.
Right. I mean, there's not enough churches, even though there's churches everywhere. If every church banded together,
right,
and stop paying, astronomical mortgage fees for things, I love that. This is one of my favorite things. Is the Bible instructs us to owe no man anything,
mm-hmm.
and yet we have no trouble. Right? I don't even have to say it, right?
Yeah.
For our own gain, it's like we need a gym. Let's go ahead and go into debt up to our eyeballs, and we'll build it on pledges for people that, they're going to keep their word.
Right.
Yeah. Just wait till they get run off by a message you preach. Right.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah,
so anyway, yeah, the Americanization of everything. And it is just one of those things where you sit back and you go, okay, if all the churches banded together, the crisis in the world, the globe, and this is another thing that makes me go, Jesus is coming back soon, because the global crisis is much bigger. I mean, we feel pinches here.
Mm-hmm.
The global crisis, which we have no concept of. I mean, we're in such a bubble.
Oh yeah.
We showed last week the 160 Christians that were murdered.
Oh yeah, the ones down in the Congo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you don't hear about that anywhere.
No. Well, the most Christians and most persecuted people on earth, right? Which nobody likes to talk about either. I mean, you talk about the Islamic world. There's been death and destruction. I mean, that just kind of follows those cultures. In Syria, I think in their civil war, they had, was it their civil war or whatever the war they were having there was 400,000, I think, died. Nobody talks about that. That was Bashar al-Assad, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yep.
I don't know why I'm blanking on that. I feel like an idiot for that. Either way, hundreds of thousands of people died. But then, of course, you go to the Jews inside of Israel, and they're not allowed to win a war. They're not allowed to, they're not going to criticize, Syria for for the fighting that goes on there, but Israel is. But Christians aren't the ones fighting people around the globe. We're not going around, but we are getting driven out of country after country, especially in the Middle East and places that are Muslim.
Mm-hmm. You just said it.
Yeah.
We're done.
That's
YouTube.
it. I'm over it now.
We're
Yeah.
out.
That's
We're out.
Well, in the Nagorno-Karabakh, there's the 100,000 displaced Christians. that nobody talks about.
Nobody talks about any of this.
So either way, well, and you can even go to America, and here in America, they've taken down the 10 Commandments. They've taken down no prayer in school, none of those things. The coach that was fired because he knelt and prayed before a football game. And the upside is that in this country, we still have a First Amendment, and there are states that are fighting back, which is a beautiful thing. And so I'm going to segue with that one. Once we started talking
Here we
about
go.
that, I was
Yep,
like, okay,
10
here we go.
Commandments.
Yeah, and I didn't pull up the video or the thing. There it is. Here we go. Why are my photos not pulling up properly? I'm messing with the flow, Jeremy. I'm messing with the flow.
We'll forgive you. We walk in forgiveness. Here we go. Speaker Johnson backs Tennessee commandments, or
Louisiana.
backs the 10 Commandments
Yeah.
mandate in Louisiana. I saw 10. Sorry.
I was wearing my Tennessee hat. I thought maybe that got you off.
Yeah. So this is fantastic.
Yes.
But there's a but here. I want to say this is like when they repealed Roe v. Wade. Also a great segue.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very similar to me. Awesome. Louisiana's putting the 10 Commandments back on campus.
On all public schools.
All public schools are going to have the 10 Commandments, which is fantastic because there is nothing wrong with the 10 Commandments. There is not a commandment there that isn't basically law, right?
Right.
For us.
Well, 4 of them, I think, are laws in 49, 50. Or I think that's in all states, I believe.
So, but you get what I'm saying. This is the universal truth, universal law. This is written on man's heart. Everybody gets it. You don't steal,
Right.
right? Everybody gets it. You don't kill.
Yeah.
We get it. So, for the most part, it's like, okay, this is kind of vanilla. This is fine. It's in Louisiana, which is great. And if there is an argument, nobody will understand them anyway. Yeah, right?
Right.
So,
Well, they don't all talk like
no,
that.
I know they don't.
Have you,
I know.
the Deep South guys, what else down the bayou,
yes,
oh man, they got a cool language down there. So
But what I was going to say is, does this open up everybody else from being like, you know what? We want Sharia stuff posted here. We want, what is going to be the next thing that Louisiana has to face because they're saying we want the 10 Commandments put in. Let's just
they
start.
just say no.
Just start with prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why don't you start with the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer?
That's the Pledge of Allegiance. Start with that one. That's a great one. No, you're right. I think it could open it. But here's the thing. When you're in a community like that, when you're in a state like Louisiana, and they say, we want the 10 Commandments, and somebody says, well, we want to have all the pillars of Islam up, or we want to have the Satanist creed, or whatever it is that they've got.
No.
We should have that up. Just say, no.
Yeah.
Nope,
No.
that doesn't align with our values.
Right.
It's not limiting. This separation of church and state thing is where it really starts to grind my gears. That came from one letter.
And
One letter.
if we understand that, that wasn't the actual intent of separate. Like, that wasn't the intent.
Right.
You can go ahead and explain it better than I can, probably. The intent wasn't to say you can't have church in state things.
Right. Yeah, but that's the way they've read that into it.
Yeah.
And therefore they said, oh, separation of church and state, separation of church and state. We read it in this letter, not in our Constitution, not in our Declaration of Independence.
It was here in this letter.
It's right here in this letter that got passed along because one of the founding fathers said, this is my take on it. And they took it and ran with it. And they take prayer out of schools. They take the 10 Commandments out of schools. They start separating us. That was one of the things that separated us from our moral foundation, which for the longest time were Judeo-Christian principles, biblical values.
Yeah.
They didn't even always say that. It was just understood in our society.
I remember in second grade, now this is going back 150 years, but I remember in second grade, I was a bit of a handful. And my teacher, Mrs. Graham, rest in peace, and we'll see her one day. Her punishment for us was to read the Bible. And so instead of going out for recess, and I did this multiple times, I would read the book of Mark, or I would read Jude. Or sometimes if I was really bad, she would be like, you're going to read the genealogy. And So that's what I did.
Oh, wow,
Like, it
okay.
was just awful.
All the baguettes.
All the the boring. I didn't understand it. Couldn't read the names. Couldn't. But those things instill in you the importance of the word, right? And this is public school. I mean, we still got spankings then. That's
Yeah.
how,
Oh, I was back in the spanking days.
yeah. Which, oh, you can't do that. Boy, I'll tell you what, that's what we need. I mean,
Our principal, poorly behaved kids. She carried one that was fiberglass, or it was like it was a clear acrylic type material.
yeah.
Had a handle on it. It started to get real loud in the lunchroom, and she'd come in and she'd pop that thing down on the table, and it was like it was this silence.
Yeah.
You didn't even hear.
I'd have that puppy in a holster. You know, my dad, when we were kids, my dad made paddles for us out of wood.
Yeah.
And he shellacked our pictures on the paddles and he hung them on the wall. So everybody came in and be like, oh, that's an interesting frame. He's like, I ain't a frame, you know? And we got smart when we were kids. Like I would hide mine thinking I'm in good shape because my paddle's gone.
He's like, I know this song and dance.
He would
boy.
just grab my sister's, you know? So anyway,
Sorry, I got us on a
we're way off. But
paddle tangent.
so I wonder though, what precedent is this going to set in Louisiana, and what about the other states? Anybody else following suit here?
No, not that I'm aware of. I think it opens the door for more states to follow suit. There are some states that could probably get away with it. Tennessee is one that could probably get by with it.
Sure.
That one, and that becomes more difficult. It's going to become more difficult for the Floridas and the Tennessees because we're getting so many imports from other states. But, you know, Alabama is one.
Oh yeah.
You know, Arkansas is one.
Yeah.
Those states are it could potentially open things back up for
But do
them.
you
But
think I think the imports that these states are getting, for the most part, are people that would be totally for it. They're not moving here to destroy the economy and to vote.
I don't think all of them are. I think some of them, though, they carry the leaning. So it's like when you I'm trying to think of an example. I'm having a really hard time coming up with an analogy, but it's people become infected by their surroundings.
Sure.
Okay, you are the average of the top 5 people that you hang out with. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
That's what you're going to be. So the people around you develop you as a person. They develop your
That's why I
worldview.
work alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you just have a lot of conversations
Right.
with yourself.
With myself. Yeah.
I do that too. That's dangerous.
But I think I agree with what you're saying. However, the vast majority of people, especially here, right?
Yeah.
You can move here from California and you're going to be infected by good old boys.
Yeah.
And so there'll be that pendulum shift. Most of the people that are coming here from California, from New York, are not the people that they're not necessarily, let's say, well, I'm not pro-Trump, but I really hate the prices. They will become pro-Trump because they're going to be surrounded by people who are like, you know,
I think though that it takes some time
Yes.
for them to we'll say detransition.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Detransition.
Yeah.
I think a great example is I was in Walmart last week with the boys.
Yeah.
And there were 2 people with Biden shirts on, Biden-Harris shirts. I didn't even notice the Biden-Harris shirts. What I noticed was they were both wearing, they were still wearing masks.
Oh wow.
Yeah, nobody in Walmart had a mask on except this couple.
Yeah.
And they were both wearing Biden-Harris shirts. And I thought, okay, $20 says they drive a Prius.
Right.
Right? $20 says like
Or
20
a Subaru.
or yeah. $20 says that the government helps them with their groceries.
Yeah.
Like you can't make this stuff up. There's a stereotype around here for the left that holds pretty true around here, where you can kind of go, yep,
Yeah.
that's one of them. And so I don't think you can stay here for very long. And that's not to say everybody that's listening move here. We don't want you necessarily.
Improve where you are. How about
Improve where you are. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the way to do it. But I don't think you can stay here for very long without having that cultural influence.
Well, but see, there's still with Trump in particular. We can revert back to Trump real quick. He's a guy who it didn't. Even if you were around here, because I know people around here that are staunchly anti-Trump and will not vote for him. They haven't been, it's not that they haven't been influenced by this area, but there's other things that are influencing people. There's social media that's influencing people. It's where you work.
Yep.
You know, if you're in academia or something like that, you are being heavily influenced. You can be in the reddest of the red areas, but in those pockets, you still won't convert yourself to, you know, the set of ideals that made the area that you're in great in the first place, which is capitalism, which is free market economies and all that good stuff. So there are a lot of people that won't change, because it depends on who are you hanging out with when you get there. If you get in, like when my grandparents moved to Chattanooga, my grandmother, she moved into a German area. That German area was assimilating. They wanted to assimilate into American society. So they said, we're going to stop speaking German. We are Americans now. That's our thing. People also move into certain areas, set up in their pockets, and they don't assimilate. That's the more common thread now. And I think people do that politically as well. They're hanging out in the same places. They are talking with the same people, folks that they have something in common with. And a lot of them aren't going to assimilate. So you see that in like Nashville, right? Middle Tennessee.
Sure. Yeah.
Huge pockets of very blue areas.
Yes.
Because they're electing Democrats.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, so I don't know that we kind of danced around a couple things there, but I like to think that eventually it will rub off on enough of the people that are coming here that it doesn't change our politics. It doesn't change our state. But
and I think that's part of, I do think that's a problem. That they are actually masterful at is the transplanting,
Yeah.
the spread, you know, people moving out of the cities that are trying to change the landscape. Whether they're trying or not, they're trying to have a better life. They're just not, well, I'll just say it, they're just not smart enough to know that the problems of the cities that made them get out of the cities, they've created by the way that they voted.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. So they're going to continue down the path that they're going. And meanwhile, they're in the middle of Illinois in a field, right? And they're going to vote the way they've always voted because, well, that's what we do. And that's
were
the
you
problem.
when you were living in New York? Because you moved there. I mean, you were I don't know what age you were whenever you moved out. But was that even a thing? Like, I mean, because politics wasn't as divisive back then. I remember my lifetime that it didn't matter if you were more left or right or whatever.
So
But you've lived in several different places.
the divisiveness of New York politics, it is interesting because it's not very divisive. It's Democrat, right?
Was it like that even when?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, however, being on Long Island, especially from Suffolk County, which is, it goes, you know, Manhattan, then it goes Nassau County, then it goes Suffolk County. Suffolk is the east, right?
Right.
Everything funnels through Manhattan, though, because we're on an island. So Queens is part of the island. So, you know, so what was interesting is the farther east you went, the more Republican it became until you got to the Hamptons, right? Because that's all movie stars and all those people. So it goes back to Democrat there. But there was a bastion of Republicans in Nassau, Suffolk. And what's interesting is a lot of those people worked in Manhattan, but they didn't live there, right? Because you can't live in Manhattan. I mean, you know, you can, but who would want to? You have no space. You have no, you know, I saw a video the other day for, you know, like a $4.5 million place in Manhattan on the 50th floor of something. And it was like, that's a shoebox. You're giving me a tour.
yeah.
You're giving me a tour of it. It looks nice, but you just went into the dining room again, and we've only been watching this for 30 seconds. You know, you've already made the circle. You're already done. No thanks. I want to be able. If I have kids, you can't have kids. I mean, what are they going to play? You can't. So anyway, it was interesting living there though, because most of it, and I was in my 20s and 30s. There were a ton of people that were, you know, Republican. There were a ton of people that did not like Schumer for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's like everywhere else. But when you get in the city, that's where it becomes super heavily Democrat.
Yeah. It's the hive mindset too.
Yeah.
You know, That's how they got the jury and put, having Trump having a trial in a place that is infected with that hive mindset, and people can't imagine ever voting for that. Used to be the case, of course. Now I think it's starting to shift a bit after the past few years, but yeah, that hive mindset takes over and it's this bubble 90%.
Yeah, I mean, so you'd have no trouble being in a 15-minute city,
Right.
in Manhattan, right?
Right.
And people live there because it's like, well, I got everything is right here. I mean, you watch Seinfeld,
Oh yeah.
right? They didn't leave their block.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
They didn't have to. It's all right there. So you've got that mentality of like, all right, let's take 15-minute cities and cut it down to like 7-minute cities because I want to go across the street and have a hero, and I want to like they have everything they want right there. They can't imagine having to drive a half hour to church, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't even have a car, right?
I couldn't. I don't know if I could live that lifestyle.
It's different, but bringing this all home, it's a great win. State of Louisiana, good on you, good for you guys, and I hope other states follow suit. I really do. I would love to play a clip because we did talk a little bit, and I know it's 9. It is getting close to the hour, buddy, but I want to play a clip because we did bring up abortion.
Yes.
And we ran across this, and this, first of all, is a couple years old now. But this is Roe on her deathbed, her confession.
Let me pull this up here.
Put me out in front of the cameras and tell me what to say. That's what I'd say.
Wow.
I took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say. That's what I'd say. We've gathered here today to pay homage to the children that are being aborted in this abortuary. We're doing this because abortion is wrong. And I, as the former Jane Roe of Roe versus Wade, do regret signing the affidavit for the pro-abortion camps. That was probably about it.
It was all an act.
Yeah. I did it well, too. Put me out in front of the cameras.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? I don't know the backstory on her. What circumstance she must have been in, to
accept the money.
Yeah, to accept the money, to read the script, to do what she did. Now there was an interview with the daughter that she had, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was and that girl, I think, tried just to stay out of the limelight. But what I don't know. It's so hard to grasp the nefarious intent of people that I guess they saw it as a money grab. And this one woman, they were able to latch onto her for whatever reason, saw that she could be easily manipulated, and as she came up in age, she finally realized
I think it's all about the misdirection and deflection, right? So if you've got a mouthpiece, if you can pay somebody else to be the mouthpiece, right? It takes the focus off of you. And so in this case, she was paid by who? I just got out there and said what they told me to say. Who's the they? We want to know who the they is, right? And I don't think at that time, I really don't believe that was a Democrat-Republican thing.
No, I mean, well, there wasn't a whole lot of difference during all the abortion debate up until the past 10 years.
Right, there hasn't been.
It was a safe, legal, and rare versus not at all.
Right,
and so there was some moderation on the left, but I think that was just good messaging in an evil way. But that was clever messaging on their part,
yeah,
to get their foot in the door. Because like we talked about with a lot of other things, You get your foot in the door during that storm, and the wind has a chance to get in, and it just blows it open. And they knew that, so it's going to be safe, legal, and rare. But we have to, fight this good fight as they thought it was.
And I don't know if this was the Sanger camp, Margaret Sanger.
That's who I think it was. Yeah.
But who was behind her, and I do wonder, I mean, I've done a little bit of research on her beliefs as far as birth control and abortion and what, the differentiation between the two and just
Margaret Sanger's?
Yes. And some of the other things, I know that she was definitely in the camp of, I got to be careful how I say this.
She was a eugenicist.
Yeah, yes.
Did you not want me to say that?
No, it's really okay. She's,
if we're not on Facebook by now,
she's a eugenicist.
Right.
She did not want the African American race to live through that.
No, she didn't.
Which means she was a racist.
Yep.
A eugenicist. And, I'm going to say this, but I believe that there's quite a few people that run a lot of things right now who are the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like Gates and Klaus Schwab and, so I don't know if it was her that paid them, that paid Roe to take the fall, to be the spokesperson, to be that, because if it came out back in the 60s, a eugenicist, racist wanted abortion, I think people would have a little bit more pushback than, a poor woman with.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that the other, the other perspective on that is that they now embrace Margaret Sanger. So it's just like,
isn't that's what's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That they embraced.
She's like a hero.
Yeah. Yeah. They change people's personas. I'm blanking again. The guy in West Virginia, Senator, Robert Byrd.
Byrd.
So that guy, they praised him. Obama eulogized the guy. He was in the Klan.
Isn't that ironic?
He was in the Klan.
Don't you think? Obama.
They eulogize him.
Yeah.
So they have this interesting memory where they can craft it over time, round off some of the rough edges, and next thing you know, they're holding this person up as if they're a great person for what they did. And Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood, she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. She's a hero to these people, yet she was a eugenicist. She actually praised Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
She was a bigot.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that hasn't changed since then? It's the exact same party.
Yes.
It's the exact same party. They divide us now. Like they shift their racism around from one place to the other. And they say that they're for, the black community. They say, they locked in the vote with the black community when, over long term, we don't have to get into that because we don't have time to talk about all of it. But at the same time, they're the ones that have been subjugating the black community. They're the ones that put them in ghettos. They're the ones that wed them to the federal government. They're the ones that broke up their nuclear. They destroyed them.
Okay,
destroyed their community.
It is 9. We got like 5 minutes, but we're going to go over. Let's just. So if you're on Rumble, if you're watching on Facebook, we're going to go over, because I want you guys to see. So first of all, there's a video by a pastor named Vodi Bakum who is phenomenal, and I want to talk about this for just a minute. He also preached a sermon called Dragons in the Church, which I highly recommend you look up. Dragons in the Church by Vodi Bakum. It'll change your life. And here's part of the reason why. Margaret Sanger, right? So, yes, I've done a little bit of research on her. From what I remember, her parents were Catholic, I believe, or Protestant. No, they were Catholic. And she ended up studying a bunch of stuff, but she did... she became an atheist, first of all. And I remember specifically because I thought, this is fascinating. Here's a woman who grew up knowing the saints, becoming an atheist, and then she went extreme feminism.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme feminism. So I want to talk about this for a second, because critical race theory, the trans movement, the LGBTQ community, abortion, all of it stems from one place, and we can trace the roots back to one place, and that is the feminist movement.
Mm-hmm.
Prove me wrong. And I challenge you, who are feminists out there, prove us wrong. Maybe you do your own research and your eyes will be opened
Yeah.
a little bit. But it all goes back to one seed, and that is to overthrow, in a sense, the patriarchy.
Right.
Okay, this doesn't work for me. I can't have, I don't want there to be a hierarchy in society, even though this is the way God designed it. I'm going to do my own thing.
Right.
And so rather than allowing men to empower women, which is what a real man would do, they decided to try to seize the power on their own through protests and through, instead of being elevated, they demanded elevation.
Right.
Right. And the last time I checked, demanding and self-promotion and all of those things comes from a place of pride, which we all know is a place that's not from God.
Right.
Okay. All that being said, Sanger becomes an atheist, huge feminist, right? There is no doubt in my mind, because of her spiritual background, that she continued in a spiritual background or foreground and went to the other side.
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
It became a spiritual connection to her newfound identity, basically.
Yes.
I get, okay, that makes sense. No, that does make sense.
Yeah. And there's no way that
there's
you can come up with or concoct the idea that to murder somebody in the womb is okay unless you have a spiritual connection with something that is pushing you to do that.
Right.
And therein lies the Margaret Sanger that I believe, who was demonically possessed, who was being used as a tool of Satan. And it shows through the manipulation of innocent people.
Yeah.
Right? Through the eugenics process. God is not a God of eugenics. I don't care what Hitler got
not.
people to believe, right?
Right.
He is not a eugenicist. He doesn't pick a race. He picked the human race.
Right.
But
race is that's one of the things Vody Balkman, I was listening to him, it was just a couple of days ago, where he was talking about, all the racial tensions. And he said, race is a social construct. We're one human race under God. That is how he designed it. Boom. We are different, but in aesthetics, only. We are in aesthetics only, right?
Yeah. I mean, we are.
Everything else is
everything else is the same.
Right.
We're built the same. We're cut the same. It's just color.
And the point you made about the hierarchy, that is the one that is the hardest for people now to grasp.
Oh, you can't have that.
Is that I feel that's an amazing point. Feminism, like you say, it's demanding to be elevated, but it's also the pulling down of men, the feminizing of men,
Absolutely.
Which has been long in the process. And
I'm going to send you the sermon "Dragons in the Church" by Vody Baucham, and it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah,
and it'll blow anybody's mind that's listening. Write it down. Listen to what he says about critical race theory. This is coming from an African American pastor who gets it. Go ahead.
Critical race theory is part of a broader movement, the critical social justice movement. And the social justice movement has really been gaining traction in the last several years among Christians, among evangelicals, among Roman Catholics. It's been gaining traction. And part of the reason that it's gaining traction is because it sounds not only good, but it sounds familiar. Social justice movement. Who's not for justice, right? What Christian wouldn't be for justice? Racial injustice. Who wants racial injustice, right? We don't want any kind of racial injustice, least of all racial injustice. And so these ideas and these terminologies sound very familiar to Christians, and they've really gained a foothold. And one of the reasons that they've gained a foothold is that people don't know where they come from. They're not familiar with critical theory. They're not familiar with Marxist conflict theory. They're not familiar with, Antonio Gramsci's concept of hegemony and so on and so forth. They don't know that these are the things that lay beneath these concepts and ideologies. And so a lot of Christians, especially a lot of younger Christians who are, just coming out of the university or are in the university, have really been sort of inundated with these ideas and have sort of infuse them into their Christianity. And in their desire to be altruistic, they've been misguided. And it's caused a great deal of division within many churches and families and organizations and seminaries and so on and so forth. The Southern Baptist Convention, for example, just a couple of years ago, passed a resolution, the infamous Resolution 9, on critical race theory and intersectionality. And it's amazing that, the people who now know what critical race theory is and know what intersectionality is are scratching their heads trying to understand why the conservative Southern Baptist Convention would pass a resolution affirming critical race theory and affirming intersectionality. By the way, last year, the 6 presidents of the Southern Baptist seminaries came out with a statement against critical race theory. This is just a year after the convention passes a resolution in favor of critical race theory. So, these ideas have very much infiltrated the church and have caused a great deal of harm and continue to cause a great deal of harm as people, try to, they try to say that this is an argument against people who are against racism and people who are not against racism, people who are fighting against injustice and people who are okay with injustice. And that's a red herring and building straw man. It's completely inaccurate. This is about an ideology that has its roots in Marxism versus an ideology that has its roots in the scriptures.
Boom.
Boom. Man, that guy's good.
And well learned.
Yes. I love his beard too.
I do too. He is definitely one that is not afraid to approach the issues.
Yeah, he's done that with racial issues. He's done that with man and woman, and how that is lined out biblically. He lays it all out without compromising anything, and he doesn't compromise to make anyone feel good. He just says, "This is what it is. This is what it is, and it is what it is."
It's simple.
Yeah.
When you do it that way, this is what it is. I didn't write it. This is what it is.
Right.
And, so his idea, and you heard him there allude to the Marxist agenda and everything, which, listen, it's satanic at its core.
Yeah.
At its root.
It is.
There's nothing elevating about it.
Right. Not to mention the only way to get to it is by doing things that are unethical, immoral.
Murder.
I mean, 100 million people.
Mass genocide.
100 million people.
Yep. And yet we've got people who firmly believe in it.
Let's try it again.
Right.
They just didn't do it right. Yeah. When I'm the benevolent dictator, I will do it right.
I'm going to do it right. Yep.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage you. Dragons in the Church, Vodi Bach, phenomenal message that will make your head spin, especially if you're a feminist.
Right.
Okay? I'm just saying it. He doesn't rip you apart by any stretch of the imagination. What he does is a masterful job of explaining the importance of the patriarchy, the importance of the protection, the importance of being elevated. He doesn't say women should be subservient to men.
Right.
He says women should be elevated by men.
Right.
And shouldn't fight for it, because if you're fighting for it, then there's a problem.
Right.
There's a simple problem, which is why you look at the Pride movement.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just the very word, right? The Pride movement. Okay? Just the word, pride. It's right there.
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
Right.
It's not a good thing. It comes before the fall, right? It's
one of the first ones that people learn. Pride cometh before the fall.
Right. I mean, it's one of the 7 deadly sins, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
pride.
It is, yeah.
So you got the Pride movement. Okay. What are you proud of?
Reveling in their own narcissism, I think.
There is nothing more narcissistic. There's nothing more self-centered. There is nothing more.
I'm going to shape myself in the image that I want.
Correct.
That's
and
making your. Russell Brand has said this several times when he talks about, and I'll put this in secular terms for people that might not, be there with their faith, but everybody has a God. Whether you can choose to have God, you can make yourself God, you can make money God, you can make things God.
Yep.
You can make your whatever. Everybody has a God. It's just finding the right one that's going to guide your life in the right direction, and we know where that is.
Right, we do,
and we hope more people find that.
And so, nothing is further from the truth than the lie of pride, of racism. Critical race theory is racism.
Yes.
There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
it's racism. Anytime you're teaching preferential things towards one race over another, then you've got a problem. And anytime you look at history through a critical lens of racism, you are a racist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can sit here as two white guys, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have no idea. You're right. And I don't want to think about it. I don't want to go back.
Right.
We're here. I don't want to ever go back. And I mean, that's a pretty simple answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it is.
I'm not the problem.
Right.
You're becoming the problem by going back. Like, let's stay here together, not go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there it is.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm done. It's 10:07.
10:07. It was a good show, though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Hopefully, y'all tune in tomorrow night to the debates, especially towards the end, so you can.
Let's hear the mumbles.
Yeah. My dad invented Reese's Pieces. You know,
Great, right?
I mean, whatever it is, it's going to come. It's going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
There will be a story.
It's going to be amazing. Back in Scranton, they hate him in
Bless his
Scranton.
heart. Yeah, I don't think they like it.
They don't. They don't like him. So, okay. Anyway, till next week, braver than the rest. Keep your eyes to the skies. If you have questions or comments or would like to be on the show or anything like that, go ahead and shoot us an email at thebraverthantheRest@gmail.com. We do answer you, and we will try to stay task-oriented next week. And
We hit most of the points tonight.
we did.
Yep.
We did. So thank you, Tracy, for that gentle reminder that we've got to speak about what we say we're going to speak about. It's hard to do because you get
Yeah,
talking.
it is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's conversational. So, yeah.
Anyway, till next week, braver than the rest. Blessings.